The Diop family, originally from Senegal, decided to leave their native country 10 years ago to settle in Belgium. It was a difficult choice, but they were looking for better opportunities and a more stable life for their only daughter, Aissatou, who was only 12 years old at the time. Aissatou, determined to succeed and to honor the sacrifices of her parents, showed strong motivation and determination very early on. At the age of 18, she found work in a car sales company. His perseverance and exemplary work ethic quickly earned him the respect of his colleagues and superiors. Initially working as an administrative assistant, Aissatou was particularly attentive to details and always sought to learn more about the profession. Every day, she observed the salespeople, listened to their advice, and memorized the characteristics of different car models. Thanks to her dedication, she gradually moved up the corporate ladder. At the same time, she continued her studies in evening classes, aiming for a diploma in business management. Her days were long and tiring, but she never complained. Her parents, proud of her progress, supported her wholeheartedly. They knew that their decision to leave Senegal was the best for their daughter. One day, the company held an internal competition to promote an employee to the position of sales manager. Aissatou, although young and still new to the field, decided to try her luck. She presented an innovative plan to increase sales and improve customer satisfaction. His project impressed the jury with its clarity and realism. To the great surprise of some of his colleagues, Aissatou won the competition. His promotion marked a turning point in his career. To celebrate this important milestone in her professional life, Aissatou decided to treat herself to a nice outfit for her first day as sales manager. She went to a luxury clothing store in Brussels, eager to find something special that would reflect her new position. Upon entering the store, she was immediately struck by the elegance of the place. Models dressed in sophisticated outfits gave him a glimpse into the world of high fashion. However, no sooner had she walked through the door than the manager, a tall white woman in her 40s, began staring at her intently. The security guard's insistent gaze only accentuated his discomfort. Aissatou felt uncomfortable under the scrutiny of the manager and the security guard. Despite her apprehension, she decided not to be intimidated and continued to browse the shelves, admiring the beautiful pieces on display. However, the manager's attitude did not change. She followed her closely, seeming to doubt her intentions. After several minutes of this oppressive surveillance, Aissatou walked towards an elegant dress, perfect for her first day of work. Turning to the manager to ask to try on the dress, she noticed an expression of suspicion on her face. "Can I try on this dress, please?" Aissatou asked politely. The manager hesitated for a moment before responding sharply. "Are you sure you can afford it?" Aissatou, although hurt by this remark, replied calmly, "Yes, I'm sure." The manager, visibly upset by Aissatou's confidence, pointed to the fitting room with a brusque gesture. Once Aissatou was inside the cabin, the manager took a furtive look around her. Then, with devious determination, she walked over to a display and picked up a necklace worth 10,000 euros. Without wasting time, she went to Aissatou's handbag, which remained near the cabin, and discreetly slipped the precious jewel into it. Aissatou, focused on trying on the dress, suspected nothing. She emerged from the cabin a few minutes later, glowing in her new outfit. The manager, now displaying a forced smile, greeted him with a seemingly approving look. "This dress suits you very well," she said in a honeyed voice. "Do you want to buy it?" "Yes, I'll take it," replied Aissatou, happy with her choice despite the manager's unpleasant behavior. Aissatou walked towards the cash register with a radiant smile, delighted with her purchase. She had no idea what had just happened. The necklace had been discreetly slipped into her purse, and she was unaware that she was now embroiled in a delicate situation. At the checkout, she paid for the dress with a credit card, and the saleswoman, without being asked, carefully packaged the garment. The manager, still in the background, observed the scene with a satisfied look, as if she had already planned every detail of what would follow. Aissatou thanked the saleswoman, took her bag, and headed towards the exit. She had barely crossed the threshold of the store when an alarm suddenly went off, creating immediate confusion. The shrill noise echoed throughout the store, attracting the attention of customers and passers-by. The manager rushed towards Aissatou with an accusatory air, while the security guard stood in the young woman's way. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but there seems to be a problem with your bag," the security guard said in an authoritative tone. Aissatou, panicked and confused, looked around, tension rising. "I don't understand. What's going on?" she asked, trying to stay calm despite the stressful situation. The manager, pretending to be concerned, added, "It looks like you've set off the alarm. We need to check your bag." Aissatou, with a beating heart, opened her handbag under the watchful eyes of the other customers. The security guard, with professional precision, searched the bag and discovered the necklace worth 10,000 euros. His gaze grew harder as he addressed Aissatou. "I'm sorry, but it seems that this necklace is in your bag. You need to explain to us how it got there." Aissatou, stunned, stammered, "This necklace is not mine. I have no idea how it got into my bag. I came here to buy a dress, that's all." The manager, feigning concern, turned to the customers who were beginning to murmur. "I think there was a misunderstanding," she said shrilly. "But we have to follow procedure. We will call the police to resolve this matter." At that moment, Aissatou felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. She knew she had to remain calm and cooperative, but the fear and humiliation were palpable. She tried to explain her version of the facts, but doubt had already been sown among the witnesses. As soon as Aissatou had finished telling her story, the police officers asked her to follow them to the police station for further investigation. Despite her stress and anxiety, she complied with the instructions, hoping that the truth would come out quickly. Arriving at the police station, Aissatou was directed to an austere and sober interrogation room. The walls were white, and the room was equipped with a metal table and stiff chairs. A one-sided mirror allowed investigators to observe the scene from another room. One of the officers, a man with graying hair and a stern look, introduced himself as Inspector Martin. "Hello, Miss Diop. I am Inspector Martin. We now need to clarify this situation. Please be seated." Aissatou sat on the chair opposite the inspector, her heart racing. Inspector Martin, sitting across the table, opened a file and began asking questions with clinical precision. "Can you describe to me in detail what happened at the store? How did you discover the necklace in your bag?" he asked in a professional voice. Aissatou breathed deeply before responding. "I went to the store to buy a dress. The manager looked at me very insistently while I looked at the clothes. I asked to try on a dress, and after trying on, I paid with my card. I took my bag and left the store. The alarm went off right after I left the store." The inspector nodded, taking notes. "I understand. Did you notice anything strange or suspicious before the alarm went off?" Aissatou shook her head. "No, nothing in particular. I was just concerned that the manager seemed to be watching me very closely." Inspector Martin continued to note Aissatou's answers with professional concentration. After finishing his questions, he stood up, looked at Aissatou with a mixture of compassion and rigor, then addressed her. "Miss Diop, given the seriousness of the situation and the value of the property in question, we unfortunately have to keep you in detention while we continue our investigation. You understand that this is standard procedure in such cases." Aissatou's heart sank at the announcement of these words. She had hoped for a quick resolution, but now she found herself in an even more delicate situation. "But why? I have already explained my version of the facts. I am innocent," she protested, her voice trembling. Inspector Martin, although understanding, remained firm. "I understand this may be difficult, but for now we have to follow procedure. You will be placed in a temporary cell until we have clarified all aspects of this matter." Two officers escorted Aissatou through the corridors of the police station to a temporary cell. The cell was small, with grayish walls and a dazzling fluorescent light. A simple berth and a small sink were the only furniture present. Aissatou entered the cell, feeling a wave of despair overwhelm her. Once inside, the officers locked the door behind her. Aissatou sat on the bunk, trying to collect his thoughts. The loneliness and anxiety were overwhelming. She remembered her father's comforting words and the encouragement of her friends, and found comfort in their support. Aissatou was struggling with anxiety and loneliness when she heard voices coming from outside her cell. Familiar voices, full of pain and despair. She jumped up, her head turned towards the door, trying to discern the words between the sounds of footsteps and voices. "I want to talk to my daughter. We have to see her." She heard her mother's voice, trembling and moved. "Calm down, ma'am. We understand that this is difficult, but you cannot enter now," a police officer replied in a firm but empathetic voice. Aissatou, with a tight throat, approached the door, her heart breaking as she heard her parents' distress. Tears welled up in her eyes as she tried to keep calm, even though she felt helpless and lost. She pressed her ear to the door, hoping to hear her parents' familiar voices more clearly. Her father, his voice laced with frustration, added, "We need to know if she's okay. We are very worried about her." His parents' voices, full of pain and worry, echoed in the hallway. Aissatou was overwhelmed by emotion, feeling helpless in the face of their suffering. She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to calm herself so as not to panic. Inspector Martin, having heard the commotion outside, entered the corridor. He looked at Aissatou, then headed towards the door to speak to his parents. "I understand that you are upset. We are doing everything possible to resolve this situation." The police officer, seeing the distress of Aissatou's parents, decided to make a compromise. "We can allow you to see your daughter, but only for a few minutes and under supervision. We need to make sure this doesn't hinder the investigation." Aissatou heard the steps of the agents getting closer, and shortly after, the door to his cell opened. His parents entered, their faces marked by fatigue and anxiety. The sight of her parents, with tears in their eyes, melted Aissatou's heart. She rushed to them and hugged them, offering them a moment of comfort during this difficult ordeal. "My dear, how are you?" asked his mother, her eyes full of tears. "I'm fine, Mom. I assure you that I have done nothing wrong. It's all a misunderstanding," Aissatou replied, her voice trembling. Her father placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "We believe in you, Aissatou. We know you are innocent. We will do everything in our power to help you get out of this situation." Inspector Martin, respecting the compromise, gave them a few minutes to talk before inviting them to leave the room. Aissatou, although comforted by the presence of her parents, knew that the road to resolving this matter would be long and strewn with pitfalls. Minutes passed, and the parents, their eyes brimming with tears, were escorted out of the police station. Before leaving, they left Aissatou words of encouragement. "Stay strong, my darling. We are with you." The door closed behind them, leaving Aissatou alone in the cell again. But this time, she felt a little less lost, buoyed by the support and love of her parents. She closed her eyes, trying to draw on this positive energy to face the rest of her ordeal with courage and determination. Leaving the police station, Aissatou's parents immediately headed towards their car, determined to find a solution to free their daughter. The father, worried but resolute, began making phone calls. He contacted several lawyers, asking for advice and looking for the one who could best help them. After numerous calls, they finally managed to obtain an appointment with Maître Leroy, a lawyer renowned for his competence and experience in similar cases. They quickly took the road to the lawyer's office, hoping that he could provide clarification and an effective strategy to get Aissatou out of this situation. Upon arriving at the office, they were greeted by an assistant who took them directly to Maître Leroy's office. The lawyer, a man of around 50 with piercing eyes and a reassuring attitude, invited them to sit down. "Mr. and Mrs. Diop, I have become aware of your situation. Tell me in detail what happened, and we'll see what we can do for your daughter." Aissatou's parents explained the whole affair, from the accusation of theft to the detention of their daughter at the police station. Maître Leroy listened attentively, taking notes and asking specific questions. "It is crucial to collect evidence of his innocence," he finally declared. "I will ask to see the store's CCTV footage and speak to witnesses who were there that day." After a long discussion, Maître Leroy explained to them his fees and the costs necessary to carry out the investigation and the defense. The total cost was €7,000. "I know it's a lot of money," he said, but I guarantee you that I will do everything in my power to see that your daughter is released. Aisatu's parents looked at each other, weighing the decision. We will do what we must, his father finally said. We will find the money. Freeing our daughter is the priority. They left the firm with new hope, although aware of the financial challenge that awaited them. As soon as they returned home, they began to raise the necessary funds. They contacted friends and family members for help and set up a drive to raise the missing money. Meanwhile, Maître Leroy began his investigation, requesting access to surveillance videos and questioning witnesses. His determination and expertise began to bear fruit. He quickly discovered inconsistencies in the store manager's testimony and elements that could prove Aisatu's innocence. A few days later, Maître Leroy organized a meeting with Aisatu's parents to present to them the progress of the investigation. We have good things in our favor, he said with a confident smile. There is still work to be done, but I am optimistic that your daughter will be released. The following days were filled with tension and hope for Aisatu's family. Maître Leroy continued his hard work, checking every detail and compiling the evidence necessary to prove his client's innocence. Finally, after weeks of preparation, the hearing for Aisatu's release took place. In court, Maître Leroy presented his arguments eloquently, highlighting the inconsistencies in the manager's testimony and showing the surveillance videos, which exonerated Aisatu. The judge, after reviewing the evidence and listening to the testimony, made a quick decision. Miss Diop, it is clear that you have been wrongly accused. You are free to leave, declared the judge, banging his gavel to close the hearing. Aisatu felt an enormous weight lift from her shoulders. With tears in her eyes, she turned to Master Leroy, expressing her gratitude. Thank you, Master. Thank you so much for everything you have done. Leaving the court, Aisatu saw her parents impatiently waiting for her. They rushed to her, embracing her warmly. My darling, you are free, exclaimed his mother, her eyes filling with tears of joy. Yes, Mom. Thank you for your support, Aisatu replied, her voice moved. Aisatu's parents, relieved and happy, called a taxi to return home. On the way, they discussed the ordeal they had just gone through and the gratitude they felt towards Master Leroy. Aisatu, sitting between her parents, felt the love and support surrounding her. When they finally arrived home, Aisatu felt a wave of relief and security. We will get through this together, his father said determinedly. And we will do whatever is necessary to ensure that this injustice never happens again. This experience had strengthened family bonds and shown the strength of unity and love. Aisatu, although marked by this ordeal, knew that she could count on her parents and on the justice system to defend her innocence and her dignity. The next morning, despite the fear and shame that assailed her, Aisatu made a courageous decision. She would return to the company where she worked. She knew that running away would only worsen her feelings of vulnerability and injustice. The best way to turn the page was to resume your life where it left off, with your head held high. Aisatu prepared herself carefully, choosing an outfit that gave her confidence. His parents, aware of the importance of this day, encouraged him with comforting words. Be strong, my daughter. You didn't do anything wrong. You have our full support, his father said, kissing his forehead. Arriving at the company, Aisatu felt a wave of anxiety. She knew that rumors had been circulating and that some of her colleagues might look at her differently. But she took a deep breath and pushed open the door of the building, determined to face the day with courage. As she walked down the hall, she noticed the curious looks and murmurs of the employees. But Aisatu held her head high, refusing to be intimidated. She headed towards her office, politely greeting her colleagues along the way. She had barely placed her bag on her desk when her superior, Mr. Lefebvre, came to meet her. Aisatu, can I speak to you for a moment in my office? He asked in a neutral tone. Aisatu nodded and followed him. Once in the office, Mr. Lefebvre looked at her seriously. Aisatu, I want to tell you that we are relieved that the truth has finally been restored. We know you've been through something difficult, but I need to tell you something. Aisatu felt her heart tighten. Yes, Mr. Lefebvre? We have decided to keep you in the company as an administrative assistant. However, due to recent events, we had to give the position of sales manager, which you won in the competition, to someone else. Rebecca now holds this position. Aissatou felt a wave of disappointment wash over her. She had worked hard for this promotion, and the idea of losing it was difficult to accept. But she also understood that the company had to make decisions for its operation. I understand, she finally replied, trying to hide her sadness. I am grateful to be able to continue working here. Monsieur Lefebvre nodded, aware of Aissatou's disappointment. We know you have a lot of talent and potential. Keep working hard, and opportunities will present themselves again. Aissatou left his superior's office, his head full of thoughts. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to prove her worth and regain the trust of her colleagues and superiors. For weeks, Aissatou adjusted to her new position as an administrative assistant, although the disappointment of losing her promotion continued to haunt her. Every day, she went about her tasks diligently, hoping that her hard work would eventually pay off. One morning, while she was taking a break in the break room, she noticed Elise, the cleaning lady, looking at her sadly. Aissatou had often noticed Elise's looks of compassion, but that day, something seemed different. Elise's eyes were red and swollen, as if she had been crying. Aissatou approached her gently. Elise, are you okay? She asked worriedly. Elise hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath. Aissatou, I have to tell you something important. Something I heard that could change everything for you. Intrigued, Aissatou encouraged her to continue. Go ahead, I'm listening. Elise looked down, visibly nervous. One day, while I was cleaning Rebecca's office, I heard a voicemail she was sending to a manager at a clothing store. Rebecca was talking to this manager, who is apparently a member of her family. She said you were going to visit this store looking for a nice outfit for your first day of work. Rebecca asked him to accuse you of theft, so that you would lose your promotion and she could take your place. She even promised to give her 5,000 euros if she managed to do it. Elise's words resonated in Aissatou's head like a clap of thunder. She felt a mixture of anger and betrayal rise within her. Are you sure what you heard? She asked, trying to control her emotions. Yes, I'm sure, Elise replied confidently. I hesitated to tell you because I was afraid of the repercussions, but I couldn't continue to watch you suffer for something you didn't do. Aissatou took a few moments to digest this revelation. She knew this information could be a game changer, but she had to proceed with caution. Thank you, Elise. Thank you for telling me the truth. I will think about the best way to handle this situation. When she returned home that evening, Aissatou felt upset by Elise's revelations. Her parents, Monsieur and Madame Diop, were sitting in the living room, talking peacefully when she entered. They looked up, their faces lit up with joy at seeing her. But that joy quickly faded when they noticed her tormented expression. Aissatou, what's wrong? Asked his mother, putting down her book and getting up to greet him. Aissatou sat between her parents, trying to control her emotions. Mom, Dad, I have something important to tell you. Elise, the cleaning lady in my work, revealed something to me today that could change everything. His father, Monsieur Diop, frowned, worry showing on his face. What did she tell you? Aissatou took a deep breath and told her parents everything. Rebecca's voicemail, the request to the store manager to accuse her of theft, and the promise of 5,000 euros in exchange for the false accusation. As she spoke, her parents listened with increasing attention, their features hardening with anger and indignation. How could Rebecca do such a thing? Exclaimed his mother. She was supposed to be your friend. Aissatou nodded, tears in her eyes. I feel so betrayed, Mom. But now I know I have to act. I will gather evidence to confront Rebecca and set the record straight. Monsieur Diop took his daughter's hand in his, squeezing it firmly. You are brave, my daughter. We will help you overcome this ordeal. Together, we will find a way to prove your innocence. As Aissatou recovered from the revelation, her parents made a crucial decision to help her cope with the situation. Monsieur Diop immediately contacted Maître Leroy, the lawyer who had already supported Aissatou, to explain the new turn of events and ask for help in this new stage of their fight for the truth. Maître Leroy, taking the new revelations very seriously, decided to file a complaint against the manager of the luxury clothing store who had been involved in the plot orchestrated by Rebecca. According to information provided by Elise, this manager had received €5,000 to falsely accuse Isatu of theft. The day of judgment against the manager of the luxury clothing store finally arrived. The atmosphere in the courtroom was charged with palpable tension as the parties prepared to face this crucial step. When the manager was called to the stand, she adopted a defensive attitude. With a falsely perplexed expression, she vehemently asserted that she knew nothing about the accusations against Isatu. "I have never heard of such a transaction," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "I have never received money from Rebecca to falsely accuse anyone. I don't understand what's happening." The investigators, after hearing the arguments of both parties, requested access to the manager's phone to conduct a more in-depth investigation. Maitre Leroy supported the request, stressing that examination of the phone could provide additional evidence and confirm the veracity of the accusations. The investigators therefore took possession of the manager's phone and placed him in police custody for a 2-day investigation. This process aimed to review messages, calls, and any other relevant elements that could corroborate or refute the accusations. During these 2 days, tension rose even more. Isatu, although concerned about the outcome of the investigation, remained determined to see justice done. His parents and Master Leroy were by his side, ready to support every step of the process. Eventually, after careful examination, investigators discovered key evidence on the manager's phone. The exchanges of messages and call recordings revealed conversations between the manager and Rebecca, confirming the request for a false accusation as well as the receipt of the €5,000. These damning discoveries were presented to the court, and the manager could no longer deny her complicity in the plot. The court, taking into account the irrefutable evidence, delivered its verdict. The manager was found guilty of complicity in the plot to falsely accuse Isatu, as well as corruption. She was sentenced to a prison sentence and ordered to pay significant damages to Isatu as compensation for the harm suffered. After that, Rebecca's arrest at the company marked a turning point in this tumultuous affair. Rebecca turned pale upon hearing these words, and a murmur of surprise ran through the offices. Some employees exchanged shocked looks. Others looked at Isatu with expressions of silent support. Isatu, although concerned, stood with dignity, knowing that the truth had finally been revealed. Investigators escorted Rebecca out of the business. The scene was marked by tension, but also by a feeling of justice that was beginning to be felt. As she walked past her colleagues, Rebecca avoided glances and kept her head down, aware of the weight of her situation. Once the arrest was made, Isatu returned to his office, his heart still heavy but relieved. His colleagues, seeing his calm and strength, began to encourage him. Several of them came to see her to express their support and apologies, realizing the seriousness of the injustice she had suffered. The day after Rebecca's arrest, the atmosphere within the company was thick with rumors and speculation. The employees were still in shock, but a glimmer of hope was beginning to shine for Isatu, who was finally able to turn the page on this difficult ordeal. While she was recovering from this decisive day, Mr. Lefebvre, her superior, asked to speak to her in his office. Isatu, her nerves still raw, headed towards Mr. Lefebvre's office with a certain apprehension. Entering the office, Isatu saw Monsieur Lefebvre, sitting behind his desk, a serious but comforting look on his face. "Isatu, I wanted to speak with you privately to discuss the repercussions of recent events and your situation within the company." "Yes, Mr. Lefebvre," replied Isatu, trying to keep calm. "We have closely followed developments in the case, and after reviewing the evidence and testimony, we have made an important decision regarding your position here." Monsieur Lefebvre paused, as if searching for the right words. Isatu, with a beating heart, impatiently awaited what happened next. "What about it?" she asked. "We have decided to reinstate you as sales manager, as was initially planned before the tragic events. We recognize your dedication and skills, and we want to give you the opportunity to return to the role you deserved." Isatu felt an immense relief invade her being. She had worked so hard for this promotion, and the news of her reinstatement was an important recognition of her efforts and resilience. "Thank you very much, Mr. Lefebvre. This means a lot to me. We know it wasn't easy for you, and we want to make sure you feel supported in this transition. I wish you much success in this new role." Monsieur Lefebvre stood up to shake his hand with an encouraging smile. "If you need anything, don't hesitate to come see me. We are happy to have you with us in this important role." Aissatou left the office with a feeling of renewal and gratitude. She returned to her role as sales manager with renewed determination, ready to prove herself and re-establish her reputation within the company. His colleagues, having observed his strength and courage throughout this ordeal, began to greet him with greater respect and support. The company, having witnessed the injustice suffered by Aissatou and her integrity in the face of adversity, gradually found itself united around her. Aissatou threw himself into his new responsibilities with renewed enthusiasm. She knew that despite past challenges, she now had the opportunity to unleash her potential and contribute meaningfully to the company. The path had been difficult, but it had led to a personal and professional victory that Aissatou was determined to seize with all the passion and dedication of which she was capable. With her new position as sales manager, Aissatou found each day more rewarding than the last. Her determination and dedication were no longer secrets to anyone, and her colleagues respected her for her courage and perseverance. However, in the midst of this professional renaissance, Aissatou did not forget Elise, the housekeeper who had played a crucial role in revealing the truth. Elise, always discreet and reserved, continued to work diligently, but Aissatou saw in her much more than a simple colleague. One morning, after a particularly successful meeting, Aissatou decided to invite Elise to lunch. They settled in a small cafe not far from the company. The atmosphere was warm, and the two women, although coming from different worlds, shared a moment of conviviality. "Elise, I wanted to thank you once again for everything you have done for me," Aissatou began, putting down her cup of coffee. "Without you, I might never have been able to prove my innocence." Elise, visibly touched, nodded. "I only did what was right. No one deserves what you went through." Their discussions became more personal, and soon, they discovered they had a lot in common. Elise spoke of her dreams of a better life for her children, while Aissatou shared her ambitions and challenges. As the weeks went by, their friendship strengthened. Aissatou found in Elise a precious ally and a faithful friend. They supported each other in difficult times and celebrated small daily victories together. Elise, for her part, felt valued and respected, not only for her work, but also for the person she was. One day, Aissatou decided to take an initiative. She suggested to Mr. Lefebvre to organize training sessions for non-administrative employees, like Elise, in order to offer them professional development opportunities. Mr. Lefebvre, impressed by the idea, immediately accepted. "Elise," Aissatou said one evening after work, "I have a surprise for you. We will set up training for employees like you so that you can develop new skills and perhaps even progress within the company." Elise, moved to tears, hugged Aissatou in her arms. "Thank you, Aissatou. You have no idea what this means to me." The months passed, and thanks to this training, Elise was able to progress in her career, becoming an administrative assistant. Her self-confidence grew, and her friendship with Aissatou became a model of solidarity and mutual support within the company. Their story inspired many other employees, and the company became a place where everyone felt valued and respected, regardless of their position. Aissatou and Elise showed that, despite obstacles, friendship and support could transform lives and create a harmonious and prosperous work environment. Thus, Aissatou and Elise continued to grow together, each supporting the other in their respective paths, proving that true friendships can be born from the darkest moments and blossom under the light of truth and justice. And there you have it, dear listeners, the inspiring story of Aissatou and Elise. Through trials and injustices, they've shown that truth and sincere friendship can triumph over the darkest moments. Aissatou, thanks to her determination and the invaluable support of Elise, not only restored her honor but also created a work environment where everyone can develop and feel valued. Their story is a powerful reminder that courage and integrity can transform our lives and the lives of others. We hope this story touched and inspired you. If you liked this video, Don't hesitate to like, share, and subscribe to our channel to discover other captivating and moving stories. Thank you for listening, and see you soon.